Okay, so I know everyone on earth has heard about the Shohei Ohtani gambling scandal. Now, this is crazy for a bunch of different reasons, but it's actually really interesting. So I wanted to talk about it. So as we heard, ESPN got info about a story or an investigation into an illegal bookie that somehow involved Shohei Ohtani. Not necessarily Ohtani, we don't know that yet, but that it ended up apparently being his interpreter, or at least that's what they were saying, that was gambling on sports with this illegal bookie. For those of you don't know, gambling on sports is illegal in California. You can't do it. You can fly right across the border to Nevada, make all the bets you want, but there's no DraftKings here. There's none of that stuff, so it just doesn't occur here. Anyway, apparently what happened was, ESPN got the scoop on this story, which they didn't uncover. It was something that kind of just came out to them. I think the Times too had a beat on that story, but ESPN for some reason was granted an interview with the interpreter who says it was him gambling, and gave a 90-minute interview, went into detail about everything that was going on, about how he was betting and he lost all this money, and Ohtani basically, from what the interpreter initially said, Ohtani helped him pay off, the bookie, basically get him square. Okay, well, I mean, that doesn't sound too bad, right? Wrong. That's a big wrong. Because as we all know, especially with things like that, if you provide money to pay a debt like that, it's basically the same thing as if you did it yourself legally. Not only that, but apparently, I mean, when you really hear the details of the story, the money was wired to the bookie, which again, whenever you wire money, if you're going to do illegal activity, don't use a wire, because that makes it, a federal crime. And then there's all kinds of things with that. Crazy. Okay, what are the other possible crimes? Well, one of the things that I didn't realize, about why someone would use a bookie versus just, going to Vegas or things like that, is with the amounts of money involved, it's considered tax evasion. That's a big part of it. And so again, anything with tax, they're going to come after you. Crazy stuff. And so looking into this, I'm like, wow. One of the things I asked myself is if Shohei had used, or Ippei, the interpreter, had purchased gold in large amounts, couldn't they just given that to the bookie, and that's, under the table stuff? Yes, there's a paper trail with that, but I mean, $1 million in gold probably really isn't that much gold. You know what I mean? You can rack up a lot of money very quickly in gold versus using, a wire, things like that. And, I'm sure you could get your hands on it and kind of make the switch, and it's kind of untraceable. It's one of the benefits of gold, right? But here are the other crazy parts of the story that are just it's just nuts. I mean, if the interpreter, which again, it's coming out more and more that the dude's a liar. Okay, I can understand that. But there's so much more to it, because people say that, these guys were together 24/7. It wasn't a business relationship where it's I'll see you at the office. It was literally every day we're together. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, family. More than most families. So, if that kind of thing is going on, you would think that at some point they're, you're going to know about it, or at least have an inkling about it. But secondly, the other part that people were making was, and I've never operated with the bookie, so I have no idea, but what they were saying is the guy's income is just, not anywhere near, that level of money. I mean, I've heard everything from $85,000 to, several $100,000 that he makes as an interpreter for Ohtani. But, to get in the hole for $4.5 million. Now, to me, again, I'm not a bookie, so I don't know, what they would allow, but with reason would tell you if someone's making 300 grand, especially here in California, I mean, that's a comfortable wage, make no mistake, but it's not, you're not living in the really nice areas on that level of income. And so, on top of your own expenses, are you going to be able to pay back $4.5 million? Probably not. So again, one of the things that's coming out is, no bookie, apparently, from people who deal with bookies, they're saying no bookie would give that amount of money, as a line of credit, to someone who just doesn't make that amount of money unless it was coming from somewhere else. So The other side of that is that a lot of people say, you know, ex-teammates and everybody's kind of come out to defend Ohtani, which is understandable, right? We've kind of painted him as, you know, this great guy, and he would, you know, blah, 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 blah. And, you know, his ex-teammates and things were saying he really wasn't interested in other sports and things like that. Okay, I could see that, you know, again, but it's one of those things, like, we really don't know a person. You know, he's very private, which... I have a lot of experience with Japanese culture, and, you know, a lot of them are very private, but that obviously doesn't mean that, you know, everything that they do, the Japanese culture has a lot of dark side to it, just in general. I mean, like all of our cultures, right? But they're also very private about certain things. And so it's very interesting because, again, you know, we assume these things because of the image built up about Ohtani that, you know, he would never do something like this. And, you know, of course, it's got to be all about the interpreter and that kind of thing. But we don't know. We have no idea. And the thing is, yes, you know, obviously everything at this point is speculation. But, I mean, at this point, it's crazy to think about. Like, you know, if the original story was true, it paints Shohei as kind of like a friend helping a friend. Now, again, that would be very naive, you know, to pay off a bookie, especially like when you have that much to lose, you know, and you're surrounded by people who, you know, potentially you should have, you know, a lawyer, an accountant, you know, people who would know, okay, you can't do that. You know what I mean? At least in confidence. You can go to your lawyer and tell them whatever you want, and they'll be able to tell you like, hey, you know, no, you can't do that. And you're protected by attorney-client privilege. So, you know, is it an excuse? The other thing is with the laws, again, you know, ignorance is not a defense, which is like crazy, like to think about, but it is, like, it isn't. So, you know, even if you did something like that with the best of intentions of, hey, I'm helping out a friend, like the law doesn't look at it that way. So all of these things are super, super, super crazy. But it's just like, there's something here, like, again, from their relationship. One of the things that was really stood out when this story came, you know, first started breaking and everybody was like, what the hell? Was the original story that came out was, you know, the interpreter gave this interview, and then after the Dodgers' first game, you know, he addressed the team in the locker room after the game and, you know, told them, hey, a story's going to come out. I'm a gambling addict and I'm sorry, blah, 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 blah. At the time, the president of Dodger baseball was there, and he said that, you know, Shohei helped, you know, pay off this guy's debts. That's what he told the team. At least that's what the reporting says. Now, of course, he could have heard that from the interpreter, you know, whatever. But again, for the very next day, for Ohtani's people to say, no, this is all a lie, it was money stolen, da da da. I mean, not only does that make it look really shady, first of all, because, I mean, once the lawyers get involved, then they know what the law is. So they're going to say, no, you can't just do that. You know, that makes you legally liable and blah, 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 blah. So, of course, they're going to do whatever they can to protect you. But also, like I said, going back to Japanese culture, if there's a very big honor thing there, even in negative stuff, there's a big honor thing there. And so I could see where, you know, they talk about the fall guy, like, you know, the interpreter being the fall guy in any regard. Potentially, like, either the original story was true, but they realized after the fact, like, oh, hey, you know, that is the truth, but, you know, if he paid for him, he's gonna be in trouble. So you're already in trouble. Why not just go full throttle? Just, you know, Shohei didn't know about it. The hard part is, because from what they say, it's a federal investigation that's been going on for a while into the bookie, you know that they're going to bring in the forensic accountants who are going to find everything. Like I said, one of the big things to me is like a wire transfer is one of those things that's like, yeah, you definitely don't want to be doing wire transfers to commit crime, to anything to do with crimes, because it's a federal crime versus just like, you know, a state crime or against state law. It's a automatically federal crime. And so it's a whole other level of criminality that you're bringing into the situation. Again, good intentions, bad intentions, you know, I didn't know, doesn't matter. Crazy stuff. But the question that I ask myself is, if you're together with somebody, you know, 24 hours a day, you know, you have to know that that person's, you know, a big sports guy, or, you know, he's interested in sports. I'm sure at some point it had to have come up that he gambles, even if the original story is true that he met the bookie at the, you know, poker tournament, that's a person who gambles. So you know that this person gambles, you know? It's crazy. Everything to do with this is crazy. And like, I'm an Angel fan. So I like Shohei. I'm not happy that he went to the Dodgers because they're our rival. But it's just like, I feel like so much of this doesn't make sense. And like, you know, even in the best possible scenario, oh, hey, the guy stole $4.5 million. Obviously, Shohei has a lot of money. But that's not an easy feat. You know, taking someone, getting money of that amount to a third party isn't easy without anyone noticing. So how could no one be in the know? How could the accountant not be in the know? How could, you know, any of these people not be in the know with that much money at stake? You know, transferring $500,000 at a time. Again, there are checks and balances in place in the financial services community to ensure that the owner knows that kind of thing. Now, are there ways around it? I'm sure there are. But to do it 9 times at regular intervals over a couple years, that's a big ask. 1, 2, nope. Yeah, I'm pretty sure if you were smart about it, you could probably get away with it. But 9 times at regular intervals, that's a lot. That's a big ask, which means that, I mean, it's highly unlikely that, you know, Ohtani at some level didn't know about this. Now, if the lawyers for Ohtani, by claiming that, oh, this is all a big theft, if by saying that, what they're really trying to communicate is Ohtani was lied to, so he didn't know what he was doing, okay, that's something different. Does it mean it's a massive theft? I don't know. I don't know what the terms are legally. Again, it's all just crazy. It's all just crazy. And like, you know, honestly, the other thing too that I ask myself is, as far as the bookie, you know, is there honor among thieves? Is it, hey, you know what, I'm getting caught up, but, you know, I'm not going to throw you under the bus. I'm just going to take the heat and do whatever's necessary. Or is it because the bookie's saying, like, you know, he never had any direct contact with Ohtani or da-da-da. Now, he didn't say that Ohtani didn't bet. He just said he's never spoken to him. He never, you know, interacted with him directly. Da-da-da. That's all he said, which, again, is one of those, you know, gray area statements where it's like, I'm not lying, but this is a really, really crazy story because, again, we've seen in the sports universe, you know, different people, you know, get caught up in illegal gambling. The thing that you hear is like, oh, well, he's a millionaire and why does he need to gamble? That doesn't mean anything. Lots of rich people do stupid things. It doesn't mean they're human beings, right? Like anything. Just because you're rich doesn't mean that you don't, you know, you're not stupid enough to jeopardize, you know, everything you have, just like everybody else is. This is a crazy story, but it's pertinent to me because, again, I'm a huge Angels fan, which we sucked for a long time, but that is what it is. You know, to see this kind of thing unfold with the biggest star in, you know, in sports probably at this point is just nuts. And there's so much to it. You know, you have the people who say, well, let's just wait for the facts to come out. Yes, of course, we're all waiting for that. But I mean, this is the internet. We can all speculate and, you know, take stabs at what the information that's out there. Again, the crazy part for me is at the Dodgers' first game of the season in Seoul, Korea, which that was a big deal. You know, Ohtani and Ippei, the interpreter, were buddy, chumming it up, da-da-da. How could it go from that, where they're buddy, chumming it up, to, you know, everyone had to know that Ippei, the interpreter, was going to make an announcement after the game, you know, talk to the team. So this wasn't something that just, oh, hey, you know, the president of baseball operations isn't going to be in that meeting unless it was a planned thing, you know. And if you say Ohtani didn't know what was going on, I mean, if my interpreter was going to hold a press conference or like a team meeting after the game, I'm pretty sure I'd have an idea of what that was about, right? It's my interpreter. See, he's not a player. Like, why would he be, you know, talking to the team? So either you're making it seem like, you know, Ohtani is completely oblivious, or, you know, he knew what was going on, and only until, you know, he knew what was going to be said, and only until they realized, like, oh, hey, I'm legally responsible, culpable, that's when he, you know, the lawyers advise him, hey, you can't do that. You're screwed. You need to get on this right away and change the story. And but that's the only thing that in my mind makes sense right now. Because of course the lawyers, you know, they're just going to look at the legal aspect of it. They don't care friend, not friend. It's crazy, and it's a huge deal, and it could have all been prevented had he used gold.